In this video, I wanted to pause and review the stuff we've already been covering as far as word problems go. Okay, so I wrote these out ahead of time, so you may want to pause the video and write these down and then press play. But the steps to solving any word problem are written out. So step one, it sounds weird to say this, but you do actually have to read it, right? I can't tell you how many times where students will say they need help with something and they haven't actually read the question yet. So read the question, try to figure out what's going on, what are they asking for, and things like that. Which goes into step two, identify the key information. Now, whenever I go over stuff, I like to use different colors to circle things or highlight things. But that's a good habit to get into. Now, if you don't have colors, that's fine. You can still go and circle the key information or underline the actual question. Okay. And then once you know what the information is, you can build an equation. Now, all the ones we've been doing recently have had this similar structure, right? There's some number that's not changing, which we can refer to as the constant. Okay, it's the part that's not going to change, like a flat fee or a flat cost, or it's like what you start with. And then there's a part that is changing. Okay, that's referred to as the variable amount. Okay, it's the piece that has the variable attached to it. Whatever the letter is, it could be X, could be Y, could be T. Well, the letter doesn't really matter too much. And then we set it equal to a total amount, or sometimes it's like the amount at the end of the problem. Like we start with a certain amount, and then what we end with is the total. Okay. And then there's some kind of connection piece in here, right? Either we're adding things or we're taking them away. So either we're adding or subtracting in the middle here. So that's the general structure for the questions we've been doing so far in this class. Okay. And then step four, once you have your equation built, then hopefully it's pretty easily to solve that equation. And then don't forget that you do need to write a sentence to officially answer it, right? A good rule of thumb is that if they ask you in words, you should answer in words. Okay, so that's the 4 steps to solving these word problems. Okay, now let's go ahead and try a couple. Now I'm going to pause the recording and write these ahead of time. So again, you may want to do the same thing once you see the question. All right, so here's the first question. Again, you may want to pause the video so you can write it down and then press play. Okay. All right, so step one is read through it and understand what's going on. Okay, so Raymond just got done jumping at Super Bounce Trampoline Center. The total cost of his session was $43.25. He had to pay $7 entrance fee and $1.25 for every minute that he was on the trampoline. Write an equation and determine how long he was jumping. Okay, so that's the scenario. He went to this place, he had to pay to get in, and then he's there he has to pay for every minute. Okay. So step two, let's go through and identify what's the key important information here. Okay, now if you have colors, great. If you don't, you can still circle things. Okay, so first sentence, he's jumping at Super Bounce Trampoline Center. Not very important. It gives us context to the question, but doesn't really help with any of the math. Okay, the next sentence. The total cost of his session was $43.25. That's probably some key information in there. And also look out for these keywords, like when they use words like total or sum or difference. Those are all mathematical terms that may kind of give you some clues. Okay. Next sentence. He had to pay $7 entrance fee, so that's probably important. Okay, and he had to pay $1.25 for every minute he was in there for. Okay, and then finally the question, which you can underline the question. How long was he jumping? So that's the official question. How long was he jumping? All right, so we got to set up a structure, right? Remember those 3 key pieces. So there's the constant piece, the variable piece, and the total. So constant, variable, and the total. Okay, so for the constant means it's not changing. So in this question, the part that doesn't change is the $7, right? He has to pay $7 just to get in. Okay, so that $7 is our constant amount. Okay, the variable part, that's the part that is changing, right? It depends on how long he's in there for. So that would be the $1.25. So 1.25. And then the total, they even gave us that word total in the question. He spent a total, so at the end of his trip, he spent $43.25. Okay? So now we can look at it and we got to figure out, how are we adding these together or are we subtracting these? Now in this question, he's paying more money, right? So we're adding these together in this question. Okay. Not always a plus sign, but in this question it is. Okay, so now we can work on solving this equation. Now I'm going to rewrite it just so it's a little bit easier to show the solving part. Okay, so we have 7 plus 1.25. Oh, I actually forgot. The variable piece needs to have an x on there, right? It's 125 per, let's put m per minute, per m. So 7 plus 1.25 m is equal to 43.25. Now don't let the decimals scare you because you can use a calculator. Not a big deal. All right, now I'm going to solve this equation. Now hopefully at this point, the solving the equation part's the part that's not too bad, but make sure you are showing your work, right? I've said it a lot, you don't get points for just plugging it into an app and getting the answer. You got to show the steps. Okay, so let's get rid of that 7. It's a positive 7, so we'll subtract it. So again, this is how you're showing your work. Okay, 7's cancel out, and we get 1.25 m. Okay, and you can use a calculator to figure out the 43.25 minus 7. So if you plug that into a calculator, you'll get 36.25. Okay, now we need to get rid of that 1.25. Remember when they're attached like that, where it's like the number and the letter right next to each other, you get rid of them by dividing. So we're going to divide by 1.25. We want to keep the m there, so don't divide by m. Okay, whatever you do to one side, do to both. Okay, and again, you can use a calculator to help you out. Okay, so 36.25 divided by 1.25, and you get the answer of 29. Now, if this was a solving an equation question, you'd be done. But we still have to answer the official question, right? So going back to the question real quick, the question was, how long was he jumping? We got 29. So 29 what? So again, you got to look at the question for the context. It's in minutes, which is why we used m, right? So we got to write a very brief sentence, something like, he jumped for 29 minutes. Okay, and then that's an official answer to our question. Okay, so again, not too bad, but make sure you're reading the question, understand it. The hardest part is probably setting up the equation to start with. Okay, the solving part we've been doing for a while, so hopefully you're getting more and more comfortable with that. But yeah, so that's how you do it. Make sure you include a sentence answer. All right, let's do one more. I want you to try this one on your own before you see me do it. Okay. So again, I'm gonna pause the recording, and I will write the question down, and you can press play again afterwards. All right. So here's the next question I want you guys to try. Okay. So if you need to pause the video, write down. Go ahead and do so. You're trying to stick to a monthly budget of $300. Okay. If you spend an average of $12.50 per day, which it says average, so maybe some days you spend more, some days you spend less, but on average, $12.50 per day. How many days can you go until you are down to your last $20? Okay, so be careful this one. The setup's a little bit challenging based off the way it's worded, but I want you to try it on your own. So again, pause the video, try it out. Don't be afraid to make mistakes, and then press play when you want to check. All right, so I already went through and kind of circled the key piece of information. Again, hopefully you did this on your own first. So total, we have a budget of $300. We're spending $250 per day. Sorry, $12.50 per day, and they want to know how much until you have your last $20. Okay. Now the way this is worded, it's a little bit strange. You may want to say like the total is 300, but that's what you're starting with. At the end of this question, the total amount, what they want to know is like how long until you have $20. So in this question, that $20 is actually the total. Okay, so be careful of how things are worded. It might change the meaning of the question or the equation. Okay, the constant amount here is what we started with, right? So because we started with the $300, that's our constant amount. And then the variable amount, I mean, that's the part that changes. Now, a key word in here is whenever you see this word per, that's usually kind of another key word. Just like total is a key word, the word per is also means it changes, it depends, right? So our variable piece in this question is the 1250. Okay, so we can write that in there. Now, in context of the question, we need to determine, are we adding or are we subtracting? Okay, now there's another key word in here I didn't underline or circle. We're spending money, right? We have $300 and we're spending it. So if we're spending it, we're losing it, right? So in this question, we are actually subtracting these two pieces. So that's our setup of our equation. Now we just have to solve that. Okay, so I'm going to rewrite it just to make it easier to work with. Okay. Again, let's go ahead and get rid of the numbers. Let's get rid of that 300. So it's positive 300, so we'll subtract it, both sides. Okay, again, this is how you're showing your work. That negative belongs with the 1250, so make sure that comes down as well. And you can use a calculator if you need to. 20 minus 300 will give you 280, well, negative 280, sorry. Okay, and then we want to get rid of that negative 1250, so we can do that by dividing it. We want to get rid of that negative as well, so let's divide by negative 1250. Whatever you do to one side, do to both. Negative 1250. Negatives cancel. Use a calculator, especially because there's decimals involved. 280 divided by 1250. And if you do it correctly, you should get 22.4. Okay, so now we actually have to answer the question. Remember, the question is, how many days? Now, we got 22.4. Does that mean that we can write that it took 22.4 days? No. So we can say we're going to round it off. It took 22 days to get that far because we can't really talk about a fourth of a day. I mean, we could if we want to go into hours, but the question is how many days. So write a brief sentence. It took 22 days until you are on your last $20. Again, that is your official answer. Okay? You show all the work, and then make sure you write a sentence as your answer. And that's it.